All right, let's talk about something huge. What if you could fundamentally change the way you interact with everyone? Today, we're cracking open Dale Carnegie's masterpiece to pull out the core secrets of human relations. And listen, these aren't just little tips and tricks. Nope, these are the foundational principles for dealing with people, period.
I mean, think about this for a second. Have you ever been in an argument? You know, the kind where you are 100% right, but you just cannot get the other person to see it your way? It's so frustrating, right? You lay out all the facts, you make this perfect, logical case, and nothing. It's literally like talking to a brick wall.
Well, guess what? It turns out there's a real psychological reason for that brick wall. See, Dale Carnegie, in his legendary book, spent years studying everyone, from titans of industry to world leaders, to figure out the universal techniques they all used. And the big secret to breaking through that wall? It's definitely not about pushing harder.
So, here's the first huge insight from Carnegie. You just can't force people to cooperate. It doesn't work. Sure, you might get some short-term results with, threats or intimidation, but he's super clear that those methods always backfire. They just create resentment and pushback, not real, genuine agreement.
Okay, so if force is completely off the table, then what's the alternative? This is where we get to the absolute heart of Carnegie's philosophy, the one fundamental idea that honestly changes everything. It all comes down to this massive shift in perspective. You have to stop focusing on what you want. The only way, and I mean the only way, to truly influence someone is to figure out what they want and then show them how to get it. That right there, that's the master key that unlocks all human motivation.
All right, so with that master key in our pocket, let's dive into the first of 3 fundamental techniques. Now this one might be the toughest one to put into practice, but according to Carnegie, it is absolutely 100% non-negotiable.
It's so simple and direct, but man, is it hard. Why? Well, because criticizing someone kind of feels productive, doesn't it? But it's not. Psychologically, it just doesn't create any lasting change. All it does is put people on the defensive and force them to justify what they did. You're basically just attacking their self-esteem.
But let's dig into that a little deeper. Why is this rule so crucial? What's really happening under the surface when we criticize someone, even when we think we're just trying to be helpful?
Carnegie has this perfect analogy for it. He says criticizing people is like kicking a beehive to get the honey. I mean, what happens when you do that? You don't get any honey, you just get swarmed. And it's the exact same thing with people. Criticism just wounds their pride and builds up all this resentment, the total opposite of what you were trying to do in the first place.
Okay, so if criticism is totally out, what are we supposed to do instead? Well, that leads us right into Carnegie's second fundamental technique, which is way, way more positive. This is the perfect counterpunch to criticism. Instead of looking for what's wrong, you're going to actively search for what's right. But, and this is a big but, notice those 2 key words, honest and sincere. This is not about empty flattery. People can spot that from a mile away, and it just completely destroys any trust you might have had.
Yeah, Carnegie draws a really hard line in the sand here. Appreciation, that's genuine. It comes from the heart, and it's totally unselfish. You're just recognizing someone else's value. But flattery, that's just a cheap, selfish trick to get something you want. See the difference? One builds relationships up, the other just poisons them.
And why does this work so incredibly well? Because it taps into one of our most powerful human drivers. Carnegie points to the psychologist William James, who said this deep, deep craving to be appreciated is what separates us from animals. Think about that. It's the urge that literally built civilization. So when you give someone sincere appreciation, you're feeding a fundamental human need.
Okay, so we've stopped criticizing. Check. We've started appreciating. Check. Now for the third rule. And this is the one that really ties it all together. This is how you actually get people motivated to do something. Carnegie really highlights this quote from Henry Ford, calling it the one true secret of success. And what is it? It's the ability to see things from the other person's point of view. He even claimed that 90% of people ignore this 90% of the time. I mean, just stop and think about the insane advantage that gives you if you're one of the few who actually does it.
But what does seeing from their perspective actually look like? Like in the real world? Well, Carnegie gives us this super simple, unforgettable analogy that makes it all crystal clear.
It's just such a simple idea, but it's so powerful. Carnegie says, hey, I love strawberries and cream. But when he goes fishing, does he bait the hook with strawberries and cream? Of course not. Why? Because he's not thinking about what he wants. He's thinking about what the fish wants.
And you know what? Fish want worms. The lesson here is so clear. To influence people, you have to talk about what they want. You've got to bait the hook to suit the fish.
And there you have it. 3 incredibly powerful ideas that form the bedrock of all human relations. So let's put them all together into one simple, practical toolkit you can use.
And remember, these aren't just some clever tricks to manipulate people. No. Carnegie presents them as a whole new way of life, a fundamental shift in how you approach every single interaction you have.
And here they are, the fundamentals in a nutshell. First, you get rid of the negative. Don't criticize. Second, you bring in the positive. Give honest, sincere appreciation. And third, you focus on their motivation. You get them excited about something. These 3 principles, they all work together. If you can master them, you will absolutely change your ability to connect with and influence pretty much anyone.
So, the only real question left is, what are you going to do about it, right? Knowing this stuff is useless if you don't act on it. So I challenge you, pick one of these 3 rules, just one, and make it your mission to really practice it today. So, which one's it going to be?